Hey Ramon,
Hey Timea,
let's talk gender equality.
I love the idea. Give me a second, I just gotta grab my coffee. I hope you've got yours too.
Yeah, right here.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to a gender equality update. We are here to catch you up with what's been going on around the world. And this is going to be a shorter gender equality over espresso. So we are here to talk about pinky gloves and what's been going on there, the controversy that came from that. Timea, could you give us a bit of an update there? Sorry, a summary there?
Sure, I will try my best. So, what happened? I suppose about last week, I noticed Twitter booming, buzzing actually with a particular hashtag, pinky gloves. So, of course, out of curiosity, I had to read about it. But to be honest, right at the beginning, I didn't give it a lot of attention. What actually caught my attention was one of somebody from female founders from the local community going on Instagram and doing a video about it, openly speaking about the situation. So, Pinky Gloves is a startup in Germany, started off by two guys who last week um, got a 30,000 euro investment on a TV show called Höhle der Löwen. I think it was called. Um, the dude that invested again was a guy, and the controversy about the whole the product that they were trying to get on the market is that they were selling they were selling basically a pink glove that should be used for dispose of any um, period products in a sanitary way. So, short, long story short, they went on the show, they got investment. There was a huge internet buzz because from Twitter, everybody caught on, news streams, The Guardian, you name it, everybody was talking about them. They openly came out with a statement on Instagram. They apologized about their idea. They definitely did not want to shame the whole discussion and the whole normal thing of having a period. And yes, also this week we noticed that they actually decided to shut down in some way or another, at least the product. And it's yet to be seen what will happen next. However, that's more or less in a nutshell what happened on the story of Pinky Gloves. Super controversial.
Thank you. Thank you. If I may, I'd love to ask this for somebody who's probably either not in, for a listener who's curious as to why this is a bad thing. What is it about pinky gloves that stigmatizes the concept of menstruation for people who menstruate? Why is having this pink glove stigmatizing?
Well, I want to tell you about my first reaction when I read about it.
Please.
Um, I was first, my first reaction was like my face went really really, and then I was like, can it really be that, that like usually as an entrepreneur, when you come out with a prototype or a product on the market, especially if you go and represent it on a TV show, which is a national TV show, to get investments on board, yeah, I have to say naively, I thought that they did their research, meaning that they interviewed their target group. So people who menstruate, right? And oh boy, was I wrong. And it actually really made me think, like, is this really what women want? They want a disposable pink glove to basically pull the string out of the tampon, or to dispose of your pad, sleep pad. Like, I mean, yeah, I was like, I completely disregarded it. And then I came back to it, as I was mentioning, once the whole internet started to boom. And yeah, why is it bad? It's simply bad because, first of all, I'm an entrepreneur and I know how hard it is to land investment or a grant for an actual meaningful product that, for example, in my case, does social good impact in the world, or that's what we try to do, right? And it's super hard, especially if you're a woman, because of gender bias, right? So, and then seeing these two guys that obviously didn't do their research properly landing so easy for like, I don't know, yet another useless product in the world, investment was, I think that's what triggered, at least in Vienna, a lot of people. It's this unfairness of yet again showing off how easy it is for men to just simply take, uh, like, I don't know, like a glove, which is like super, like you don't even have to do much to create this product, let's say, physically, and just land 30,000 euros like that, right? So I think that's what got a lot of people triggered. Of course, on the other hand, what got people triggered is, is this like, like, oh my God, I can't touch this. It's like, it's stigmatized. It's like, yeah, let's not talk. Let's hide it, in a glove. Let's like, nobody wants to see this. This is, like tiptoeing around it, kind of a, and I mean, it's 2021. Like, come on, people have been menstruating forever since the beginning of time, half of the population, and we're still tiptoeing around. Like, come on, this is like what creates life in on the planet. I think that's a different angle that got even more people aroused about the topic.
Yeah, thank you. I think it's it's it when I was looking into this story, my first question was, who were these the Der Höhle der Löwen? Um, who where how does this pipeline look? So I took a look, and I did find out that um that the jury, these people who decide whether a product gets funding or not, are made up of all white people, and out of 7 people, 2 women were jurors, which creates an imbalance of representation. And I believe, from what I understand in the story, the investors turned out to be men. Turned out the investor who gave them the 30,000 was
Yes.
a man. So the systemically, we see that these pipelines are dominated by one target group. And um and like you said, the stigmatization of menstruation, which is one of, if not the most natural thing that happens in nature, um being hidden like this to be a commodity that we see in the that we see around the world is 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 something that's offensive and inconsiderate. And what makes this worse is based on a history of products that have come out with where target target groups have either been disregarded or slighted in order to make this a more palatable product. What we were discussing in a previous episode, either I can't remember if we discussed it off the air, was the Apple iOS health app, which when it came out about 10 years ago or so, time has no meaning anymore. um, when it came out, it had a whole myriad of things you could track: blood sugar, cholesterol. I'm very ignorant about health stuff. But all of these things, except you could not use it to track menstrual cycles, which again, super one of the most natural things in the world. And then it came out, when they were called out on it, that the team, the perspective of people who menstruate was completely missing. And
Yes, and
this,
why was it missing?
because of a lack of representation, because of a lack of
Yes.
targeting. This is something that is actually mentioned at length in the book Invisible Women by Caroline Criado Perez, which we are, just a reminder, still having a book club on, so it's not too late to hop on. Um, how these products don't take the careful consideration of half of the population.
Mhm.
And again,
Exactly.
yeah, exactly. And again, these products just, it was a thinking about the inspiration, the inspiration that the founders of Pinky Gloves cited, how about how they used to live with women, and they're finding how they used sanitary products made them feel bad for them, and they had this idea that was in their idea revolutionary. A lot of the blame can be placed on these men who did not do the proper research, but I also think to wonder what happened along the pipeline that nobody
Mhm.
said, hold on, this is not a great idea.
Yeah, it's I was expecting naively that they would not even be allowed to go on such a national show without proper research, market validation. I mean, the fact that two men go and try to get off the ground a product for a target group they don't represent is like nothing unseen. Like it's nothing new. That exists, unfortunately, in the world way too much. It's just that right now the world is becoming more aware of this fact, and is talking about exactly what happened with the Apple tracker, right? What are the consequences of it, even? So, I mean, in now it's about representation of the target group, but they haven't like not even considered their target group in their research, and I think this was outrageous to a lot of people.
Yeah, it yeah, it's a bad idea that should have been at least called out somewhere along the line. That's the part that I really find myself thinking, like, surely somebody must have looked at this. Somebody somewhere along production, or however this works, must have said, like, hey, hold on,
Yeah, a
you know.
mentor maybe, or a business coach is like, well, have you actually researched that? Is that a need? And I mean, another perspective that I didn't say, what I think aroused a lot of the people, is the how unsustainable this is. Like there's like, the whole discussion about climate change going on, and leaving aside, societal change and all the gender equality aspects, is like the sustainability about it, about the fact that we should actually be moving away from products that we throw away, one time use. That this is something that we should definitely move away from. And I mean, okay, maybe they didn't have a business coach or a mentor that sort of was, let's say, gender equality inclined, seeing that perspective, but then, okay, then yet another disposable product, then
Yeah,
maybe make the argument in that way. So I agree, there was something missing there in the pipeline.
exactly. Now, it does bear to be mentioned that since the public outcry came out, the founders of Pinky Gloves did put up a statement, like you said, and pulled back the product and said, we didn't deal, I'm going to quote them, we've not dealt adequately and properly with the subject. That was a big mistake. We take your feedback very seriously and will rethink our product and reflect on the entire history of its creation. So
Yes.
it bears to be said, it bears mentioning that they did, you know, take the feedback and apologize and go back to the drawing board. Now that doesn't excuse this series of bad decisions that came to now, but like I've said several times on this podcast, I think taking that feedback and using it for good, or being reflective on it, is helpful.
Absolutely. That for that, really great. And they also pinpointed the point, the well, the subject that now this topic is again discussed, at least in Europe, probably also globally, and that's a good thing indeed.
Yes.
Um, so that hopefully other founders that are considering of even coming up with such disposable uh, products that, try to monetize on the vagina kind of a situation, they just think about it a bit harder before, going on national TV. Like, actually, from that point, I kind of sort of proud of the whole community raising up and saying like, no, this is not acceptable.
Yeah.
It was like a allyship of the whole world, sort of like raising up for sustainability, for gender equality, for the entrepreneurship world. So that's a big kudos. And unfortunately for the founders, it was probably a very difficult hit and time. I mean, I yeah, it was basically debated globally, nationally, continent level wise, and to have so much feedback in such a short time, especially if it's negative criticism that you get, then yeah, it's definitely a big learning curve for them. I hope.
Yeah. Yes.
It's
I
just
think
unfortunate that it was at that level. I mean, they could have just, did a small test in their own town, maybe actually talking to women, and that, they could have spared themselves from this national debate.
I'm really conflicted on it because, in this our year 2021, we've had time and time again seen these groups of overrepresented people come in and try to create a problem that they could then solve, a problem that wasn't a problem in the first place.
Or
And
that is not their problem
or that is not
to
their
begin
problem.
with.
Exactly. Well, I mean, here in this context being the I don't even know how to put it, the discretion of disposing of sanitary products. That discretion wasn't that big a
Needed.
problem. Wasn't needed. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Um, so they just created a problem just to throw disposable products at. But anyway, what brings me back and forth on that is that we have the proof, we have the countless number of examples of times that overprivileged, overrepresented people try and come in and try and solve a problem that is not theirs to solve, like you said. That really some foresight should have been in place here. That they could have said, "Hey, whoops, hold on, what happened? Remember last year, we were talking about this another time. Remember last year when these white American women tried to redesign mahjong to be more hip and trendy, and just when they tried to erase what made this is coming from my perspective, so it's you know full of holes, and I apologize, but they erased the heritage of the Chinese heritage from mahjong and tried to make it what they called it, a respectful refresh, right? That that implying that
Interesting.
yeah, implying that mahjong as it wasn't fit for the quote stylish masses. This kind of we've seen this time and time again, and surely at some point when you're coming up with a product, market research does play into it. I'm not an entrepreneur, but maybe Timea,
It
you know
does.
about
It
this. Yeah.
should.
Yeah.
Market validation is something that everybody in entrepreneurship can tell you that you need to do sooner or later. And the sooner you do it, the better. Because
Yeah.
if there is something wrong with your product or idea, then you know it fast. So fail fast, fail soon actually comes from exactly there. Because you mentioned this in a previous episode, it's fail soon, fail fast is exactly this point. It's like you have the pinky glove, you go out there and you give it to women and you see how they react. Maybe someone like, and not just 5 women, yeah, like do a statistical good batch and then be like, this product is acceptable, it's okay, it's, and then we can still talk about the fact that you're not representing the target group in your co-founder team. That's a different aspect, uh, which comes theoretically. Let's put it like this: if you're a good entrepreneur and if you don't represent the target group but you still validate with your actors and shareholders that are supposed to be impacted by the product, then by all means, you have proof that that's what that particular target group wants and needs. Then we can still talk about it, right? And then probably you will have diversity issues in other problems of the business, but okay, let's see how it comes along. Yeah. Anyway, the point is that you see this all over the place. You see this actually everywhere. I see it, I see it, how the economy, for example, in Austria is evolving because of this. Let's say, and there are these companies that want to suddenly do, global business, grow over Austria. And then they ask themselves, okay, why doesn't my product or solution work for the US market or the Australian market or the Asian market, right? They have absolutely no understanding for the cultures there. So it's very hard to breach into these markets. And right now, for example, if from Austria you want to sell a product to US market, the US market, trust me, they are looking right now at your product. Is this product inclusive? Is it created by, or is your customer base represented by your employee base? And fun fact, I got a message about a former client of mine that was asking me about a former employer of mine. Yeah, like, what's going on. Like, we here in US are really, we see that this is represented only by white male. Like, this doesn't fly in US anymore. Like, the representation in the company of that product, of a book, a conference, lineup, you call it. Like, if you want to do this and go sell to US, you can forget it. And that's why I want to pitch that representation of the market that you're trying to reach, penetrate, sell to in your own company will drive your business. So now, beyond market research and going into the business topic, this is why I believe this is super important. And yeah, I mean, what was the problem at the beginning with these two guys in the small town in Germany?
Something that comes to mind as you say that is the fact that it's not just I wonder, it's if it's not just representation that really matters, but having the space. I'm thinking of the example of Apple and the Health app, right? I would need to do the research, but let's assume there were people who menstruated on that team, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is it possible? Is it, because it does sound realistic to me, that the hierarchy of how that team worked, and I think at the time Steve Jobs might have still been in charge at Apple. So given the culture that Steve Jobs portrayed during his life, is it possible that the people who menstruated on that team were not given the space, were not given the safety to speak up and say, "Hey, kind of missing this feature here." Um, that I think is also an enormous problem in how these teams are set up, and how these founders, how these people in front of the camera are given this Steve Jobsian god complex, so to speak, to just
Mm-hmm.
come in and be like, it is I am representing this product.
I
Sorry, I don't
know
want to go.
better.
Pardon?
I know better. I
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about because I've found myself in my profession sometimes in this position of, your superior coming in and saying, this is how we're going to do it because I know shit, like, I know business numbers. I'm here since like 20 years, like, you name, like, how I say it goes. I'm sure this is how the market wants it and needs it. uh, and then who
Yeah.
am I, little me in the corner there, the only woman on the team, to say, like, excuse me, but I'm left-handed and this doesn't work for left-handed people, which, by the way, is a reference to I think an early prototype of YouTube or something like that. They had
Really
some story like that, yes.
fascinating.
And their product, I don't know if it was YouTube or it was the phone that was you were using YouTube on, but they figured out that it's not usable for left-handed people. And actually they came out with the story how their diversity in the team helped them figure that out before launching it on the market, right?
Yeah.
So very interesting perspectives, but I understand how this power plays a huge role, and the fact that you're misrepresented. If, for example, there are there's a group of people in your company and they are under 30% represented,
Yeah.
then they are in the outside group. They are in minority basically in that company. And that always potentially can cause the problem that they are not feeling up to the task to speak up, right? If it's not a psychologically safe environment. And then you have to invite them, open the conversation, make sure you integrate them, include them, right, in the conversation, in the designing of the product, in the solution itself. And get down from your horse of I am 20 years business experienced here, I'm the only one talking. Yeah, it's about that as well. So
Absolutely.
even if you have the diversity in your team and the representation, that doesn't mean jack squat, basically. You have to make sure that they are included and they
Yeah.
actually talk. I feel safe to say, like, I'm sorry, but like I'm left-handed and this doesn't work for me. Speak up.
Yeah. Totally. Totally. Thanks, Timea. That I think these perspectives help us try and figure out, and especially coming from your perspective of being an entrepreneur and starting a business. I think this is something that we need to also look at more when it comes to um, you know m- mishaps like this that happen. So I appreciate your perspective a lot.
Thank you. Happy to give it if it helps further in this discussion or in the
Totally.
future. And when
Yeah.
it comes to the solution, we just hope that we don't see this again, that all founders are there out there really listened carefully what happened, understood what happened, and can also learn from it before they go on national TV and spawn out this debate, international debate. That's one aspect. And the second is, yeah, just think about the people that are in minority in your team, and think about how that might potentially impact your solution business product. And if that's not businessy enough for you, then just think about, why are you not making more business at the moment? What is actually missing to push the limit on that, to breach a new market, to get new followers, to get new customers, new clients? Just think about it. Why?
Yeah. I think those are powerful, powerful words. I think, you know, I'll take some of the words from from Kim Creighton's Profit Without Oppression book. As probably over the last episodes, over this podcast, it's become a fact that become apparent that I'm a big fan of hers. But two of her guiding principles that I bring in here that I think are really relevant is, first off, intention without strategy is chaos. Second, that we need to prioritize the most vulnerable. That is, maximize help, minimize harm. And I think especially that first one, when it comes to Pinky Gloves, the intention was there, but the strategy was missing.
I think the second also holds.
Yeah.
Maximize help and minimize harm. I
Yeah.
mean, it's a disposable one-time use product. It just the fact that it does a lot more harm than help is like totally out of balance for me.
Yeah.
And you don't have to be a gender equality or diversity scholar to understand that.
Yeah. Just gotta sit down and do the work, which is what I'm trying to do on a daily basis. Well, this shorter espresso coffee turned out to be more of a latte, so to speak, a bit longer. I'm not going to keep you anymore, Timea, but this has been really eye-opening for me. So thank you for taking the time to talk to me and share this with our listeners and viewers.
Likewise, I'm super happy that I could share my opinion about it. I'm really passionate about diversity, inclusion, and belonging, and I always like to put through my perspective what happens in the world out there. Thank you.
Great. Have a good one, everybody. Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Are you on the forefront of gender equality? You are invited on our podcast.
That's right. Or maybe you know somebody that we could have a chat with on gender equality. You should totally get in touch with us. We're on Twitter at gendercoffee, or any of the other contact methods on our show notes. We would love you to get in touch and for us to have a chat.